how it works in Pakistan, I guess. Arson season has started already, right? It's early, a little bit early for arson season, but here we are. The fires have started and there are already evacuation orders in Alberta happening. So that's pretty unfortunate, I think, because again, I think it's arson and not wildfires, and they're using it to bolster their climate change agenda. Faith Goldie goes through our immigration crisis in 2017, and she's talking about temporary foreign students way back then. It's unbelievable how prophetic, I suppose, the whole video is. Yesterday, I was looking for the Faith Goldie white replacement thing, and somebody mentioned that she got fired for going on a podcast of the Daily Stormer, I think, which was a white supremacy podcast. And on that, she said the 13 words or the 14 words, whatever it is. And Ezra got upset and et cetera, et cetera. But I think it was the whole package, the reason. Ezra put together a whole half-hour video on why we parted ways with Faith Goldie. So I thought it was an interesting kind of time in Canadian politics, and considering the invasion migration that we're seeing right now and what's going on with the housing crisis, et cetera, I thought it was a good time to go back and look at what Faith was talking about way back when, right? Because it was very pertinent and really absolutely spot on. She called it, right? And I was paying attention, and a few people were paying attention. Maxime Bernier was paying attention, but the majority of Canada not paying attention at all, going along with exactly what they were told. And it's shocking. It's absolutely shocking. War with Russia? You bet. By July or August, in England, they're talking about having an actual declared war with Russia. We're already in it, they say, and they're just keeping the public in the dark until July or August. And just to remind you, during the Second World War, there was rationing in the UK, the United Kingdom, and it took 10 years after the war ended for the rationing on meat to end, right? 10 years, 1950, I think it was 1955, almost 11 years. So, well, depending on when 1945 was the end of the war, so 10 years. But that's wild stuff. And they want to bring in that kind of punishing everything, everywhere, and keep it in place all the time, forever. You're not going to be allowed to eat meat. You're just not going to be allowed to because your carbon credits aren't going to allow you to, right? You want a hot dog? Sorry about that. Here's a piece of bread and some margarine. You don't get butter because that's animals, right? But here's some plant-based margarine for you. Yes, I know that it makes you sick. Wow, lots to get to. Let's get to it first. We have to start with China. Jason James says, this is the most important news you'll read today. Prominent Canadian politicians caught in China blackmail operation, including Epstein-style sexual blackmail. There's absolutely no question in my mind that Justin Trudeau has been thoroughly compromised by China just based on the evidence that we know and what Sam provides. There's no way this government should be able to continue as is. We've never had more clear evidence of what's actually happening in our country. Sam Cooper says, exclusive, CSIS sought warrant for digital evidence in Toronto illegal casino, believing Canadian politicians exposed to People's Republic of China blackmail. My GTA election interference probe continues. So Sam Cooper is, exposing this Liberal government for being compromised by China. So I've seen people posting saying Sam Cooper needs to be protected. We need to make sure that he's not harmed and can continue exposing this stuff that he's exposing. And that's serious. That's very serious. Andrew Coyne, I know, right? I know. Mr. Ukraine flag, Israel flag says, CSIS and Toronto police believe Canadian politicians exposed to PRC blackmail and underground casino, says sources. My question is, if Andrew Coyne is so worried about Ukraine and Israel, why is he even doing any news about Canada, right? He's so worried about Israel and Ukraine, right? Slava Ukraini, Andrew, move to Ukraine and cover Ukraine, bud, right? You care about it so much. Honestly, virtue signaling nonsense. Anyway, York Regional Police allegedly captured digital evidence from casino network. So I've got that for you. Naya, right, who doesn't have an Israeli flag or a Ukrainian flag in her profile, says, this is the casino bus that Sam Cooper refers to in his bureau piece today. It was said that a brothel was inside the casino and video evidence may have been used against politicians who visited the home. It was said that funds from the casino funded Team Trudeau. York Regional Police on September 30th, 2020 says this $9 million Decoy Court Palace, that's the street name, in Markham was the site of a high-end illegal casino and spa operation recently shut down by York Regional Police investigators as part of Project Endgame, more at blah. And so you can see, we'll just go through just a little bit of this video. It's this is like a house that you can buy in a neighborhood in Markham. And I mean, it's pretty elaborate. Like, wow, They've got polar bears. They've got a polar bear, a stuffed polar bear that, wow, it's pretty impressive. Here we go. There is audio.
Guys in the front, they're still doing their DC rolls.
So it looks like a palace. Through the window, you can see a big chandelier, and here you can see people milling about and a gaming table. And the cops are pulling the gaming table out and bringing it out. This is, it looks like a safe full of cash, right? Canadian dollars. The polar bear, a guy in cuffs, right? Somebody who's gambling. Here's chips, right? Lots and lots of chips, and one-armed bandits, alcohol, guns, because you got to protect your illegal casino, right? It's very important to make sure that no ne'er-do-wells or anybody who have ill intent get in there. Got to have your ARs and your automatic rifles and your handguns. I actually didn't see any AR-15s, but whatever. They've got lots of money, right? So big bust, but this has ties to the People's Republic of China and Canadian politicians. How can this government continue to govern? Because they're clearly compromised. They're clearly compromised. So over the last couple of days, we've been talking about, and so that's pending. There's probably enough to drop most governments prior to the 2000s, right? Most governments would collapse under the weight of these scandals. But this government is special, and no scandal is able to topple this one. So we've just got to wait for another, 14, 15 months, and it'll be just great. We'll have another election that isn't rigged, and we'll get a party in place that isn't a globalist party. Oh, I mean, that's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. Whoever wins the election will continue to push the UN 2030 agenda, carbon taxes, and a whole bunch of other things, even if it's pure Polyev. I hope I'm wrong. But over the last couple of days, we've been talking about how instead of, to deal with the number of temporary people who are in Canada, all we're going to do is change them to permanent residents. Poof, right? All we have to do is change it on the spreadsheet, right? Take it from this column, which says temporary, and move it to permanent. And now we don't have any temporary people here. Magic, right? It hasn't changed anything on the ground. It's just a spreadsheet change. And that's bad. People are realizing that this is a bad plan because it's not going to fix any problems. It's just going to change the numbers and change the rhetoric, but not any of the problems, any of the issues, or anything else. In fact, it'll probably make it worse because the numbers are hidden, and so they'll have more room to pad the numbers. Right? Like, oh, well, we're just bringing in 10. Well, now we're just bringing in 100. Now we're just bringing in 1,000. Whereas all of the previous ones, temporary, now permanent, were here, and they're bringing in more temporary to become permanent. Right? It's a scam. Terry says, National Post says, decrease number of temporary residents by making them permanent. This was May 10th. Federal Immigration Minister suggests. So we're just, reordering, shuffling the chairs on the sinking Titanic. Terry says, so their strategy is to bring in millions of new refugees, declare them to be permanent residents, give them the right to vote. Okay, so permanent residents don't have the right to vote currently. They don't. But they may get the right to vote. As far as I know, they don't have the right to vote. My mom cannot vote. She's a permanent resident. She cannot vote. Unless they've changed the rules recently. Like my mom and I talked about voting during a couple of elections when I ran. She said, I'd vote for you. But, I was like, fair. And so right now they can't vote, but I wouldn't put it past these people to turn a blind eye to ones who do vote and or just outright give them the right to vote. There are already Montreal and places in Alberta trying to give non-citizens the right to vote in municipal elections. And so it wouldn't put it past me at all to see the Liberals make this possible. But this is where we stand now, okay? Just to make sure we're clear. And then convince the new citizens, the new permanent residents, the new voters, that only the Liberal Party will continue to treat them fairly as defined by the Liberals. It's election interference on a scale never seen before. We voted in 17 months. So yay, boo. Kirky is responding to this. Everyone is invited to stay in Canada and you'll get universal basic income too. These people are on a suicide mission. So, right. The other aspect of this is UBI, which is universal basic income. There are two current, a Senate bill and a House bill. Senate S-233 and House Bill C-223, and they propose, parliamentarians are considering, says ctvnews.ca, a pair of bills aiming to lift people out of poverty through a basic income program, but some fear these types of systems could result in more taxes for Canadians who are already financially struggling. Senator Kim Pate and NDP MP Leah Gazan whoever, introduced Bill S-233 and S-223 in a bid to create the first national framework to provide all people over age 17 across Canada, including temporary workers, permanent residents, and refugee claimants, a guaranteed livable basic income. The bills contain the same proposal. So that's pretty crazy. Here's Faith Goldie, and this was released, I think, in 2017 or 2018. Beginning of 2018, I think, end of 2017. And she's talking here about temporary foreign workers and student workers and international mobility. And I'll give it about a minute and a half, but it's a 30-minute documentary, 30-minute look at white replacement theory, et cetera. This is one of the reasons, multiple reasons, why Ezra and the Rebel parted ways with Faith Goldie before her mayoral run. Anyway, here we go.
You know, because Canadians aren't having enough babies. You might recall that, 1.5 per woman rather. And that's so long as qualified Canadian citizens or permanent residents are not available. So they basically have to make a case, say, look, there's no one who can do this job. We need to bring in India. We need to bring in China. The other one that you see on your screen there is the International Mobility Program. Now, the International Mobility Program is sort of similar, but it allows the employer to hire a temporary foreign worker without this labor market impact assessment that would otherwise be required of them. It's sort of a loophole within a loophole. Do you see those numbers? Do you see them? Over 78, close to 79,000 just in the temporary foreign workers program. That was in 2017. So that was only 2 years into Justin Trudeau's reign. Is it higher now? Probably. What about the International Mobility Program? Look at these numbers. Look at these numbers. That's almost Harper levels of above board immigrants that he was bringing in.
Just to give you an idea, in 2015, it was 175,000, 202,000 in 2016, and 224,000 in 2017, because it's not everybody's watching. So I try and help people who are just listening.
Was it 224,000?
Oh, dope. She said it.
Now, it doesn't end there. Also, what we have are study permits for student visas. Now, I'm going to break these each down for you in turn in just a moment, but I want you to look at the numbers first. Now, student visa programs, in order to apply to study in Canada as international student, you can actually extend your student permit and find ways to work while you study or after you graduate. Now, look at those numbers over there. What does that even say? What is that, 317,000? 317,000. For those who are more interested, I've also put a link in the description here from a great piece that was released, I believe, today from Canuck Law, who has a lot of these points in there. It's a great, great piece. I encourage you to go check out their website there. Okay, so you might be thinking, well, Faith, don't worry. All those people go home. All those people go home. No doubt, a lot of those people go home. But a lot of them don't. Why? Well, because the Canadian government actually encourages them to stay. Check this out.
Okay, so she's breaking this down. She's breaking down how these temporary programs are already pathways to permanency anyway. And now they're just trying to increase the numbers of permanent people through these temporary pathways. What's his face? Mark Miller said that these temporary numbers are baked in anyway. A temporary charge is not a baked in charge. If you say to me, during the summer months, there's going to be a temporary charge of X to run the pool, but during the winter months, that doesn't apply, and then the winter months, it does apply, that's a problem, you see, because temporary is not, this is just a rent increase or whatever it is, right? Just pretend that there's a reason for it to be temporary, right? You ride a motorcycle, and so during the summer months, you don't pay insurance, or during the winter months, you don't pay insurance. I actually think that you actually do have to pay insurance, but a lot of people just pay insurance during the summer months and pay more insurance rather than paying it all the year. But anyway, regardless of the details there, think of a temporary thing. That thing goes away eventually, predictably, at the end of the term, right? If you buy a refillable drink at Canada's Wonderland and you say, I'm going to just have it for the one day thing, it's temporary. And if you come back the next day and you say, listen, I bought this yesterday, how come it's not filling up? They'll tell you it's temporary. Yesterday it worked. Today it's not going to work because it's temporary. Temporary does not mean permanent. and they're lying to us. They're lying to us. They're trying to get us to put our guard down. It's like somebody saying, oh, we're not really in a sword fight. And so you put your guard down with the sword and then they stab you in the heart. Here is, what's this guy's name? Hold on.
Boom boom.
Shaboom Boom. I think it's Shaboom Boom. Hold on.
Shabba boom boom.
Shabba Boom Boom. I don't know if that's actually his name. But he's telling this woman, after, I guess, presumably coming to Canada from Pakistan, that if we were in Pakistan, you know, you seem like a pretty good catch. You seem like you like me. I think I'd probably kidnap you. And then she says, no. And he's like, yeah, no, it's a compliment though. You should feel like, you know, a little embarrassed because I'm bearing my soul to you. I would kidnap you. I would kidnap you so hard. He doesn't say that, but kind of.
Well, if you was born in Pakistan, originally from Pakistan, you must have been kidnapped by me.
You've been kidnapped by you?
Of course. Because there is no option to get you, right?
Okay. You have your women over there, though.
Seriously. So you are in Canada, so I cannot say you anything.
Okay.
I cannot touch you anything. Because it is Canada.
Yeah, well, yeah, definitely you couldn't touch me. There's laws to this shit here.
You know what I mean?
That's not that flattering. That's kind of scary.
Trust me. Because, like, there was no option.
Okay. Well, you have a good night.
You too. Thank you.
Bye. Bye, Shabba Boom Boom.
I mean, you know, you've got two options. You could go to Pakistan and start trying to woo women with flowers, but maybe the people kidnapping will have more success. Really, really strange. I also understand kind of what he's saying, and it's great that he understands the difference between Pakistan and Canada means that in Pakistan, maybe he could kidnap this woman, but in Canada, you definitely can't touch you here. I have concerns about all of this. It seems very, very bad overall. And in Canada, I mean, you're not really allowed to carry bear spray unless you intend to use it on a bear. Like if you intend to use it on a person who may assault you for your purse or something like that, then that's legally muddy, I think. To the degree where I think lawyers would advise you to say, like, I was fearful of a bear, and so I had this in my purse. I was going hiking earlier in the day and still had it in my purse, type deal. You can't carry anything to protect yourself. So if this guy decided Pakistan, Schmakistan, like here we are in Canada, Stan, and I'm going to do what I want to do, right? How would that woman protect herself? Now, Shabba Boom Boom or whatever his name was, seemed very clear on the difference, but not every cabbie is, right? Not every Uber driver is. So jeepers creepers seems very concerning to me. Kian, I was going to give another option for how Shabba Boom Boom could be more successful in Canada, but I decided, nah, I'm not going to get into that. Kian, let's talk about just a grab bag of governance here. He says, just in, this is honestly, I can't even, when I saw this, I thought, oh, I hope there's video, and there's video. So Kian says, Naheed Nenshi just called conservatives in Alberta monkeys. And I was like, please, here's the video of him being, he's an idiot. And it takes a long time for him to get there. And it seems like he's weighing his options for how to be insulting. It still doesn't hit. It's more confusing. And the crowd doesn't react very well either. There's a lot of, oh, and there's a difference between like good zinger and you've gone too far. And I feel like I hear more, he's gone too far. Here we go.
Sure that every Albertan has a successful opportunity in the future.
You know, Jody, you've been sitting opposite these guys. And I have been to question period a grand total of once in my life. And I was watching you and your colleagues and watching these monkeys on the other side. Can we...
See? Like it was split. There were some people who were okay with it, but there were a lot of people who were oohing, ooh, right? And that's not the sound you want to hear.
Influence them at all from opposition?
From what I've witnessed, Rachel...
Can you influence them at all? So he was just trying to call them names and smear them, really. And she says, no, you can't influence them, blah, 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 blah. But I feel like that's a misstep. I don't think that that's going to win him any supporters. Might lose him a few. Here's Pierre Polyev. Polyev says Jagmeet Singh's top spokesperson and brother's company is a lobbyist for grocery giant Metro. What a hypocrite. Is that why grocery prices are up 12% since Singh gained power in the Trudeau government? And it's 59 seconds. We'll listen to it. Here we go.
The NDP leader was just asking about why the Prime Minister gave tens of millions of dollars in corporate handouts to powerful grocery chains.
Stop giving millions of dollars to corporate grocery stores. When will the Liberals, when will the Prime Minister stop giving big grocery a free ride?
The answer, of course, is that he voted to let the Prime Minister do that. Not a single penny of that money could have gone without the vote of the NDP coalition partner.
So it's talking about prices have gone up, prices of food have gone up 12%, blah, 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 blah. And yes, it has. So that's interesting to note, right? Here's Mocha, and Mocha's got this exclusive story. It's interesting and it's long. There's lots of pieces to this. So I'll leave this here. Link is in the description if you're interested in checking out more of Mocha's work. He says, exclusive Canadian police participate in parade glorifying terrorists, including Talwinder Singh Parmar. Billed as a religious parade in Calgary, Alberta, this event took on a distinctly political tone, displaying posters that accused India of assassinations and featured names and images of Khalistani militants, individuals recognized as terrorists by Canada and or India. What's most concerning is the police participation in a parade where the suspected mastermind of Canada's deadliest terror attack is glorified. It's no secret that the Khalistani sect of the Sikh community regards Parmar as a hero in their places of worship, referring to him as a Shaheed, meaning martyr. Calgary's Mayor Jyoti Gondek also spoke at the event. How can RCMP Alberta justify participating in such an event, right? Calgary Police, etc. I think that's interesting, right? It's if somebody like, say, Roman Baber or Pierre Poilievre does an interview with the Rebel or something to that effect, the Liberals are demanding that they denounce those people, and how dare they do an event with those people, and so on and so forth. But if the shoe's on the other foot, I don't see any Conservatives saying you have to denounce these Khalistani terrorists. I haven't seen that yet. And the Liberals the leadership, Calgary Police, and all sorts of politicians, if you read further into the thread, are speaking at these events. They don't get any blowback at all. It's really, really interesting. It's Alberta. It's a lot of Conservative politicians, right? So it's interesting what's going on in Canada with special interests gaining such a huge foothold, really. Anthony says he's a realtor, and he says, I'm seeing these everywhere. This is monetary, and we should look at the health of the economy, etc. He says, I'm seeing these everywhere. The small business insolvency rate just jumped last quarter to the highest it's been in 37 years when Justin's dad was destroying Canada. It took until the mid-90s to recover, period. And this is just a notice of the business is shut down and no trespassing and so on and so forth. So that's a bad financial indicator. This I thought was super interesting and well worth the 2 minutes. This is a primer for the next story we're going to look at, which is talking about the collapse of the economy. He's responding to a different video, but I think that these two work together. So here's talking about the Fed, the debt dollar, and what is the debt dollar really, and how is it being used to harm the countries where it's in operation, really. This is talking about the United States and the Fed, but I think this extrapolates out well. Here we go.
Any questions?
Oh, it's too fast. Too fast. Oh, that's meeting it. Okay, here we go.
If you have the courage to read the Federal Reserve Act, you talk about boring, but it's all in there. The United States Congress passed a law which in essence was a cartel agreement for all the major banks to come together and share the market and control the market to their advantage.
The constitutional dollar is defined as a weight of gold or silver. The genius of the Federal Reserve Plan was it inserted a man in the middle in 1913 between the Constitution and the people in the form of the Federal Reserve. And that was the introduction of the Fed dollar. It's not the dollar that is defined by the Constitution. It's a note that's issued by the Federal Reserve.
The power to actually print the money is the basis for the whole inflationary system. Doesn't mean they actually print the money and spend it. That's what the Treasury used to do in the Civil War. But it's a more sophisticated way of doing it. They write out checks out of thin air, buy bonds with it, and then the checks or the deposits on the Fed then go out into the system.
Now that we have the Federal Reserve System, now that we have a means of creating money ourselves, creating money, the purpose of tax has become very narrow. We can fund everything we want to do simply by creating the money. We still need the tax primarily as a social mechanism. as a means of engineering society, as a means of control. That's what they have the taxes for.
I don't think he's wrong, right? Yeah, we'll just finish this out because it's only another 30 seconds.
Before every election, our representatives would like to make us think we're getting a tax break. And they're able to do it while at the same time actually raising our taxes because of a bit of magic they have in their kit bag. That magic is inflation. They reduce the tax rates, but the taxes we have to pay go up because we are automatically shoved into higher brackets by the effect of inflation. A neat trick. Taxation without representation.
So as the buying power is eroded, you have to make more money to buy the same amount of goods, but you earn more money. And so because you're in a higher tax bracket, you have to pay more taxes. It's genius. It's it's diabolical genius, right? Like, people don't see it. People don't understand it. They think I'm making tons of money, buddy. $40,000, $50,000, $60,000, $70,000, $80,000. It still buys the same as $30,000 a year did back in, 1965 or something to that effect. $30,000 is a lot of money in 1965. A lot of money in 1985, right? Less money in 1995. Less money in 2005. Less money in 2015. Way less money now, right? You see what I'm saying? And if you were making $30,000, worth $30,000 in, say, like 1995, your wage has gone up. As your wage has gone up, your taxes have gone up. Diabolical. Control. Taxes are about control. And so the researcher says, to summarize, the global economy is going to collapse due to all of the debt. So the developed countries, led by the US and the globalists, have created a green fantasy land economy based on the climate change scam that was created decades ago as a way to get people to unknowingly go along with one world government. The new green fantasy land economy will be based on the made-up carbon scam. So instead of money, which will be worthless, people will be allotted carbon credits that will be mass surveilled. The number of carbon credits that you will receive will be based on your social credit score. The global technate will determine what everyone's carbon credits can be used for. Presidents that get in the way of the green fantasy land economy that they have already spent trillions on, including trillions of our taxpayer dollars, will be removed from office via fake elections and then destroyed if they try to return to office. For example, Reed Epstein Island paying for lawfare against Trump, as the globalists do not want to lose their investments. Yesterday, I said that the internet was created to bring in the digital credit system. I believe that still to be true, and it works in with this whole idea of being able to, at a micro level, at a per person level, manage someone's carbon credits. Right? Social credit, carbon credits, same thing. The climate scam and green fantasy land economy will eventually fail because it's not based in reality, which will lead to global collapse that will make the Great Depression look like the Roaring 20s. It will also lead to Mao's Great Famine times 4,000, like times a bunch. So yeah, maybe, certainly plausible. It's certainly a path we could go down. Now, I mean, Canada is we used to be able to produce food like nobody's business. Like food used to be a really, really happening product of Canada's, right? Kind of all over. Everybody was producing something, right? All the provinces were producing something they could export. And so we could be pretty self-sustaining, but are they going to say climate change so you can't, make meat? Climate change so you can't harvest your wheat? Climate change, you can't dry your wheat? All sorts of different barriers to just basically feeding ourselves in order to preserve the planet for the grandchildren that will never come, because our society's collapsed now because of the bad policies we're putting in place to save ourselves 100 years down the line. Ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. And it's communists who are doing this to us. This is not rational. This is not sane. This is completely insane. Lion Advocacy is responding to this. Oh, we've got to talk about COVID very briefly. Moving on from the monetary insanity of things. He's responding to Andre Picard. Andre says, the AstraZeneca vaccine is no more, but its success must not be forgotten. The coronavirus jab saved millions and helped avert humanitarian crisis in nations unable to access costly alternatives. Nope, it didn't work. It never worked. It caused blood clots and heart attacks. And the people who forced it on us and who used tax dollars to buy that garbage should be held accountable for their failures. Lion Advocacy says, sociopathic rewriting of history. If we allow this type of idiotic interpretation of the history of the vaccine and vaccine mandates in particular, we will have failed in every way. What they coerced on others in the names of keeping everyone safe must never happen again. I agree. I think that it's a very, very damaging and concerning thing that has been allowed to happen. Not a Number says Victoria's health department has escaped all criminal charges over the hotel quarantine scandal. This is in Australia. The COVID mistakes cost more than 700 lives, but no one will be prosecuted because witness statements have been ruled inadmissible. So this is, I'm not going to play this video. Link is in the description if you're interested, but 7 News Melbourne says Victoria Health Department has escaped all criminal charges over the health of the hotel quarantine scandal, the COVID. Yeah. So nobody is being held accountable because they're going to try and do this again. Bird flu, anyone? And I sent my wife and a few other people who were skeptical, but don't exactly see it my way. And I said, if they pull a bird flu, if they try and lock us down for a bird flu, I'm not playing that damn game. It's not going to happen. Hard no for me, dog. Concerned citizens. Hello, everyone. Thanks very much for watching. This is just a short version of a longer show. If you'd like to get the whole show, you can go over to CanadaPoly.com and sign up for a subscription. Just look in the drop-down tab for Shop and Donate and look for subscriptions, and you'll get immediate access to the full show. Love to see you. Thanks for watching, everybody. Have a wonderful, wonderful day.